Right, here we go with video number 7, and this one is a little 3D project, and it is quite a little 3D project as well, something a little bit different. And I've got here in front of me 3 little pegs. Now, if you were planning on making these up as presents and things, you might not just want to rifle through your peg box and drag out 3 pegs. You might actually want to go and buy some new ones. But nevertheless, I have 3 little pegs just here. And what I'm going to do, now I've noticed that one of these, she's got quite a narrow bit on the back. I think I'm going to have a peg swap. Swap it out for another one. Okay, and let's have a look at how wide these are. They are about, pegs are going to vary, so it will be depending on what your pegs are. Those are about 0.7 of a centimetre and 7, just under 7.5 long. Let me write that down on a scrap of paper. So 0.7 and 7.5-ish long. So the first thing I'm going to do with these little pegs is I'm going to put some nice DSP on the front so that they're pretty. So what we're going to make these into is like some memo board pegs. So quite a nice way of using up little scraps of paper. Also something a little bit practical and something you can package up and you sell at craft fairs or give us a gift. So let's have a little look at what papers we've got. That's a pretty paper, isn't it? Stripy one might be quite nice. That would look quite cool. And perhaps we'll go with this one with just that gold foiling on. So I'm going to start by cutting. Let's cut this paper. I'm actually going to cut it so that it's 7.5 is a bit longer than it needs to be, so I'm going to leave it at 7.5 and I'm going to make it about 1.8 centimetres wide. So let me cut off a strip that's, don't want it to be 1.8 at all, do I? I want it to be 0.8. Perhaps we could do with that being slightly wider than that. But some of them are slightly wider than others. I'm going to make it a centimetre, I think, because I can trim it down if I need to. So let's make it 7.5 centimetres long for my particular pegs. As I say, you'll need to measure your own pegs. By about 7.5. Last but not least, this green one just here. By 7.5. So what we're going to do is we are going to get some glue and glue that to the front of my pegs to start with. Oh, this is the new glue, so there's plenty of glue on there. I'm just going to use another strip just to spread that out a little bit. And then I shall have some glue on that one as well, shan't I? So let's stick that on there. So I'm not worried at this stage that it's a little bit longer and a little bit wider. So want that to adhere quite nicely to the front of there. Let's do the next one. last but not least, spread that around, stick that one on there like, oh, stuck to my finger like that. I'm just going to leave that to dry just a second. I'll just mop up some of this glue and things off of there, and while that is drying, I'm just going to find hopefully the Early Espresso sponge dauber. Right, so which was the one we did first? This one. So hopefully that's stuck quite nicely. I'm going to take my good old sanding block and just sand around the edges, and that will help that paper to take on the shape of the block. Take on the shape of the peg rather in the block. Let's just take that all the way round. And when we're happy that that's shaped nicely around the edge, I'm going to take my Early Espresso and just sponge around the edge there. So there's one. As you keep sanding it, the paper will just shear off where it hangs over the edge. You might get a little bit of a sort of vintagey, grungy edge to it in places, but that's fine. We're going to go around and sponge it anyway. Got a bit of glue on the top. Let's see if we can just rub that gluey mark off. Right, and last but not least, obviously where these have got a bit of foiling on, the foiled bits might take a little bit more sanding to get those to come off. Right, and let's come round the edge of here. Okay, So there we have 3 little pegs. They've got pretty paper on and a bit of sponging. So that's quite a nice little starter for 10. Now what you could do at this stage, I'm not going to on this video, but what you could do is you could then come in with something like some varnish or some Mod Podge. This is a sealant, water-based sealer glue and finish. So it sort of will give it a sort of almost like a varnish on the top. We'll sort of seal it and just make it that bit tougher, if you like. So you could come in and you could go over the top of that with something like some Mod Podge. I'm not going to do that on this video, just because we'd then have to wait for it to dry and etc, etc. What I'm now going to do is I've got here some just some magnetic sheets that I use for keeping my dye, for putting my dyes on. Yeah, for keeping my dyes on. You can also get magnetic tape. I'm going to cut this to about 6 centimetres. It doesn't have to be an exact science. But let's just cut that across there. And then we're just going to want... You can see it's magnetic. Look, it's stuck to my scissors. Just going to cut off a magnetic strip. Now, as I say, you can get magnetic tape, you can get self-adhesive magnets, all sorts of things. This one happens not to be adhesive, so I'm going to bring in, take the end off, bring in my Stamping Seal Plus, because that's a really nice strong adhesive, and I'm just going to fix that magnetic tape, magnetic sheet along the back there. So now that will adhere nicely to your fridge, or don't know what else you might have that you've metallic. You might have a metallic notice board, you might have a filing cabinet in an office that you wanted to put some memo pegs on. Whatever it is, it will now, actually my trolley here is metal, so I could have some pretty magnetic pegs stuck to the side of my trolley with little things tucked in, ideas for classes or scraps of paper, or just tucking that tape in because it's just moderately, just slightly wider than the magnetic strip. So last but not least, let's put a strip on there. So now we have our pegs. Let's have a look. Have I got here somewhere? Looking to see if I've got something that I could stick it to. Looking around, can't see anything. Typical, isn't it? Can't see anything metal. Right at this moment, I could stick that to, but we will find something at the end. So there we are, we have 3 pegs. But now we're going to add a bit of decoration to them as well. So this is where our stamps and our punches and things come in. So I think we'll go with the little elements that we know that we can punch out. So let's take our leaves and our, we could actually, I'm going to put the pine cone there, we could cut a pine cone out, they're not difficult to cut out. There's the 2 bits of that leaf, and we just need a detailed stamp for the acorn. Did that drop on the floor as well? Why am I staring at it? can't see it there, a little leaf. Leaves, have a beautiful day, leaves. It's really not there, is it? I wonder if it did fall on the floor. And my light is starting to fail in here. Well, it's okay on my desk, but aha! I spotted it. It was on the floor. And now has a bit of fluff on it. Okay, so now we've got our stamps that we're going to be able to punch out. Let's find ourselves some bits of very vanilla cardstock just here. And we need a little block just there. So let's start with this leaf. I think I'll do 3 of everything and then we'll see how we get on. So that's that fancy one. Let's take the infill one and a bit of scrap paper. There we go. So we have some early espresso for this one. I'm going to turn that around. Determined to put them on the floor. Let's do our detailed stamps just there. Bring in our scrap paper for our infill one. Let's have now let's go for the acorn first. I'm going to do the outline in early espresso. Then I'm going to do, I'm actually going to change it to crumb cake. I'm going to do the top bit in neat crumb cake. No stamping off. And then I'm going to do the top bit in stamped off crumb cake. And then let's bring in our pine cone, swing that around, and I'm going to do the outline in neat crumb cake and the infill in stamped off crumb cake. Ooh. Let's try that again. although these are all later coming videos are later coming out than I'd anticipated in the originally, these are all I was actually very planned and in advance, and these projects were all on my list of things that I was going to do. So the planning was there, but life got in the way of the execution. But that's all okay. And number 3. And then the acorn. Oh, no, we're going to need to chop that in half. That really doesn't work because the acorns are stamped the opposite way from the punch working. That's better. So we'll have 3 of those. Might not need 3 of everything. I'm sure they'll find a home for them if we don't. Let's come in and grab some snips, and let's just cut out some pine cones. So they're not too bad a shape to cut out, just a bit of a wiggle going down the outside. Quite forgiving if you don't quite hit it right. There we go. So now what we can do is decide, let's make sure we've got them the right way up. Yes, we can decide. We actually haven't got anything green on there, have we? What we want on each of our pegs. Just put a little an acorn on that one. In fact, I might go with an acorn, a leaf and 2 acorns on that one. That would be quite cute. And then on this one, let's have another little pine cone on that one with the 2 acorns in the middle. So then if they were hanging up, these 2 would sort of almost mirror each other, and you'd get the one that's slightly different in the middle. So that's quite cute. I think I'm going to go with some glue dots, but I'm not sure where they've gone. Where have you gone, glue dots? Ah, there you are. So I think we'll have there. And coming across there. And then we'll have a little pine cone coming that way, I think. And for this one, we'll have our leaf at the back. And we'll have two little acorns, and then this one will have mirroring the first one. A brown leaf, and our Cajun craze leaf. Our little pine cone. And I've got a little smattering of things just there. So you could go on and put other little leaves and things in there if you wanted to. You could add little rhinestones or jewels. You could put on some of the wooden leaves. All sorts of little ways that you could add a little bit of decoration to those cute little pegs. But let's just see. Going to stick them on the end of my trolley. There we are. It's going to be a little bit dark, but there they are, beautifully stuck to the end of my trolley. Let's just see, I'm doing this one-handed now, so that's not going to be particularly easy. Let's see if I can pick up a scrap of paper. No, it's going to fall on the floor. Sorry. There we go. That could have been a little note. Don't forget to do your next video. So, I'm going to attempt to stand back up. I hope you've enjoyed the idea of making some little note pegs that you could package up. Just bring the camera back up here. So what you could do is you could get yourself some card and decorate that, and perhaps have these pegged to it. We won't go the whole hog, but we'll just get a bit of an idea. Just a piece of card, these pegged to it, but you could perhaps have some paper on there, a nice little greeting, pop that into a little poly bag or something, and give just as a little gift to somebody. So there you go, using your pretty papers and your stamps and your punches to create some useful little magnetic note holders.